Hey guys, for today's lesson we are going to be focusing on the article that you have assigned to you, and the title is Stalagmite, Stalactite, and that is going to be a connection between reading informational, which is fiction, or nonfiction. Nonfiction. So it's going to be a cross-curricular focus, and it's going to be blending our reading informational with earth science. So I'm going to read it to you now. Make sure that you are following along with the text on the screen. If you have ever visited a limestone cave, such as the world-famous Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico, you may have noticed some rather unusual rock formations. Recall that precipitation that soaks through the soil and rocks on land becomes groundwater, stored below Earth's surface. If the groundwater is located above a limestone cave, drops of water will sometimes find their way through tiny openings and cracks in the roof of the cave. Microscopic particles of limestone from the roof are worn away as the drop of water travels, and the water carries them along with it. Eventually, the water evaporates, leaving the limestone deposit behind. Over time, many drops follow the same path, adding bit by bit to the limestone formation. By the time thousands of years have passed, all the tiny deposits add up to a large stalactite. A stalactite is a pointed rock formation that hangs down from the roof of the cave and points toward the ground. If the drop of water falls to the ground before it evaporates, the limestone deposit starts to build from the floor of the cave upward instead. Following a similar process, drop after drop adds to the formation over many years. When the deposits occur on the floor of the cave pointing up instead of on the roof of the cave pointing down, the limestone formation is called a stalagmite. Rarest of all cave formations occur when a stalactite and a stalagmite form separately over time, but then meet in the middle and fuse together. This kind of formation is known as a single column. Located in the Guadalupe Mountains of New Mexico, the vast 46,766-acre collection of caves known as Carlsbad Caverns is home to some of the most amazing stalactites and stalagmites on Earth. The caves were discovered in 1901 when a large formation of bats flying upward from the caves was mistaken for smoke. Cowboy Jim White went to investigate and discovered the amazing rock formations. He photographed them, and visitors began to come from all over the world to see their natural beauty. In 1995, Carlsbad Caverns was named a World Heritage Site by the United Nations Scientific and Cultural Organization. So after you've heard that information article read out loud to you, I want you to take a minute and think about what the main central idea was of that informational passage. Think. What sort of things did it talk about? What things did you learn? What are some nouns, some people, places, things that the article really focused on? I want you to be thinking of all those things. Today's standard that we're going to focus on is RI, that stands for Reading Informational 12, and it says, determine a central idea of a text and how it is conveyed through particular details. Provide a summary of the text distinct from personal opinions or judgments. So basically what that means is we need to first know what the central idea of the text is. We have to have the central idea, and we'll talk about that in a moment. The second part is that we have to provide a summary that doesn't have anything to do with what we think, because like I say all the time, we as people matter, but using the word I think, I believe, that doesn't matter, especially when we give summaries of texts, because they want to know the summary. They want to know the facts, not our opinion. My camera battery died, so we're gonna keep on rolling. We're getting used to this together, you and me. The purpose of that standard is to make sure that we know how to determine the central idea of the text, and also to make sure that we can summarize the text without putting in our personal opinions and ideas, because we need to keep to the facts. Something about the central idea of the text that's really important to remember is that it is very, very similar to theme. Now, when we compare theme and central idea of the text, we need to make sure we know what genre we're talking about. Now, we can see that in our standard, RI. That stands for reading informational. Now, you've already guessed, what is informational text? What genre is that? Is it fiction or nonfiction? It's nonfiction. Any informational writing that we're going to see, especially when it has a scientific topic like stalagmites, stalactites, we are going to see that nonfiction genre. When we're talking about nonfiction, it will be the central idea of the text. Now, that's basically the same thing as our theme. So the only way that it's different is that we're not exactly learning a moral lesson in our nonfiction text. Sometimes we are, but in this case of stalagmites, stalactites, we are not learning a moral lesson. We're just focusing on the central idea. Now, you will have a theme oftentimes in fiction writing. So we see that in our novels and short stories. We see that we have a lesson that the author teaches us. That is often seen in fiction writing. Now, we have fiction, and that's going to be our theme, the moral or the lesson. Now, in nonfiction, it will be called a central idea, because we're not exactly learning a moral lesson most of the time, especially in informational writing. Now let's turn to our text. In the article Stalagmites, Stalactites, we are not seeing a moral lesson. It's not teaching us anything universally that we can put forth in our life. However, we are having a central idea. So I want you to go back to your text, and I want you to think about what this text is teaching us. Even though we don't have a moral lesson oftentimes in nonfiction informational writing, we will still have a lesson. So especially because this is focused on earth science, the point is to teach us something about science. So again, let's look back at our text, thinking that we will be learning something about earth science, and see what you think. So just by looking at this article's title, we can see that the topic will be stalagmites and stalactites. So we'll think that the central idea will have something to do with the lesson it's teaching us about stalagmites and stalactites. So knowing that often our title points us to the central idea, we can look at that title, stalagmite, stalactite, and we will see that our central idea will have something to do with the lesson we learn about stalagmites and stalactites. So we know those two words will have a place in our statement for central idea. Just like our theme statements, central idea statements need to be a whole sentence. Not just one word, not just two or three. It has to be a whole sentence that makes sense and tells us exactly what we are learning. So again, we're kind of building up level by level. If we know that our title is often pointing us to the central idea, in this case, it does point us to the central idea, we know that our central idea is going to pertain to stalagmite, stalactite. So I want you to look back in your article, and I want you to think about the lesson that we are learning about stalagmite, stalactite. So just like yesterday's video, I'm not going to give you an exact statement for the central idea. I want you to be able to come up with your own. I will give you some examples down below that I have come up with, and you'll see that in a Google Doc down below, but I want you to think in your head before you look at the Google Doc what a possible central idea statement could be. Now remember, your central idea statement should have the words stalagmite and stalactite in it. And you have those words in this text. Whenever you have words in your text, you can use that as textual evidence and make sure your spelling is correct. Now we can move on to the second part of our standard, and that is going to be providing a summary that does not include your personal opinions. The exact wording of this standard is, provide a summary of the text distinct, that means set apart, from your personal opinions or judgments. Now this is a lot harder to do whenever we are talking about maybe a political article or an article about religion or about a certain person's life. However, in an article that's about stalagmites and stalactites, you might not have a very strong personal opinion, so this is a really good starting place. When we talk about a summary, we need to make sure that we stick to the true details that are important. And that is how our central idea can help us move our summary along. If we have our central idea, we know what is most important about our text. So our summary is going to need to tell us who or what the article was about. Now our central idea will give us that answer. And what the article is teaching us and how it teaches us. Basically what we learn. But remember, we need to stay away from first person point of view. Remember, we don't need to see I, my, our, we, any of those first person pronouns. We need to make sure we do not include in our summary, because as our standard says, our summary must be distinct from personal opinions or judgments. So we need to make sure we stay in third person point of view. We can use pronouns such as it, they, he, she. Now we're really not going to need to use the he or she very much in this article because it is about stalagmites and stalactites. But you see what I'm saying? We need to stick with third person point of view and keep the I out of our summary. Again, just for a recap, especially for informational articles, we are going to provide a summary that tells who or what it is about, basically the lesson that is taught, the information that is taught, and how we ended up learning it. Basically, then what? How does it matter? Why does it matter? And that needs to be very concise. That means we don't need to give every single detail that the article gives, because it would not be a summary. It would just be a complete retelling of the article. Basically, your summary should be about 4 or 5 sentences. Now you see this article has, let's see how many paragraphs. This article has 3 fairly large paragraphs. We do not need that much in our summary. You can stick to a 4 or 5 sentence summary and you will be golden. Remember, we need to only use third person point of view. Stay away from I, me, my, we, our. Stay away from that. Use third person point of view and let the central idea be your guide. Now, I will have lots of information down below. Make sure you are really focusing on making sure you understand all of the aspects of this standard. If you have any questions, please let me know. I will include a Google form down below as well, just to see if you have any questions. Now, when you watch these videos, I want you to make sure I know you saw them. So go in the Google form down below and make sure you put your name and your homeroom and any questions that you have and one thing you learned. You will also get a chance to write the central idea statement. Remember, it needs to be 1 sentence, and a summary, 4 to 5 sentences. They should not be identical, but your central idea should lead your summary. Again, I miss you all, and I can't wait to see you soon. If you have any questions, remember, tell me in the form down below, and I will see you very soon. Bye.